Okay, so welcome to this talk. I am Anisa Lewis and I'm the Positive Parenting Coach. I am passionate about helping you to raise happy and confident children, no matter what is going on for you and your family right now. Today, you are here to listen to me talk about screens. Before I hit record, we did a bit of a total of how many screens you've got in your home, and it ranges from 2 or 3 all the way up to near what my household is, which is up near the 20s or maybe the 18s. But it's okay. It's okay. We're here today to learn how to manage them and to look into what we can do to support our young people further. My background, for those of you who don't know me, is education and teaching. I have been in the education sector for about 25 years. I'm very, very old, before I came out and I retrained to do what I'm doing today, which is to support families, to support carers, to support children, to just be the best versions of themselves that they can be. So let's have a little bit of a think about screen time. The biggest hot topic of conversation and question that you had for me when you kindly filled out your questionnaires before you joined today was all about, well, how much screen time is okay? What should I allow my child to be on? How long they should be allowed on a screen? And so it's an interesting question, and I don't think there is an easy answer, is the honest one. Now, if we go on recommendations, so the data I got was from the Health Organization, but it was from 2013. But when I did do some further research, it seems to be what the general consensus is out there in the communities. So if we go on what the experts are telling us, well, first of all, if we're going on what the experts are telling us, nobody would be near a screen at all, and it definitely rots your brain. So you wouldn't be here with me today. But I do see the irony of you now having to watch this on a screen to listen to me today. But let's have a look at what the Health Organization says is the limits. So if you have a 2 and under, no screens at all, nothing. If you have a 2 to 5-year-old, they recommend the maximum per day is 1 hour. If you have a 5 to 10-year-old, they recommend that it's an hour and a half maximum per day. And if you have a 10-year-old, you have 2 hours. That's it. If I think about my own life and I think about my child, yeah, we very much exceed what is going on with the daily recommendations for screen time. What are your thoughts? Do you feel that they're low? Do you feel that they're too high? Do you feel that that's actually something that is achievable for you and your families? I personally think in today's day and age and what we've got with reliance on technology and on screens, especially in work and education settings, that they are probably, well, no one's going to achieve them. No one is going to get there. So when I did some further research on this topic, because actually we have to make screens work. They are such a part of what we do in our daily work. We have to view screens differently. So this is something that I thought was really interesting. So it's how is your family consuming screens? So rather than looking at timings, look at how they are consuming. So are you or your children consuming, excuse me, I will eat my tongue in a moment, passively? So when we say passively, that means, are they watching YouTube? Are they just watching lots and lots of TV shows back to back to back to back to back, where there is absolutely no involvement from them? It's sort of like, not a zombie state, because I wouldn't like to say that in a derogatory way, but they're not involved in what they're doing, or we're not involved in what we're doing. That is a passive, someone's just said doom scrolling, absolutely and completely. So that is a passive use of time. I would say of all the ones I'm going to mention, the passive one is probably not the most detrimental, but the one that sucks a lot of time and is not going to serve your children. Then we've got interactive. So are your children, yes, they may be on a screen playing a game, but are they communicating with friends? Are they having to use their brain creatively to create worlds and solve problems and all of that kind of stuff? So actually, are they having to engage their brain while they are in the context of having screen time? Another one is communication. So yeah, we all know that we use our phones for to be on here. This is a form of communication. We might call somebody, we might have a chat with a friend. That's the communication side. It can be done via a screen rather than sort of the traditional stuff. And then content creation. So is your child, maybe the little ones not so much, but certainly as they get into tweens and teen years, are they creating something online? Are they creating music? Are they creating art? Are they writing a blog and practicing and honing their writing skills? So that is content creation. And then there's one that I've added in, which is work or educational purposes. So have a think about your young people or young person and have a think, how are they consuming it? Is the majority of their consumption passive? So are they sitting in front of the TV or an iPad while they're eating their meals, not communicating or not having a conversation? Are they doing lots of interactive work? So actually they are coming home, but they are interacting and playing games on it, which is requiring that thinking part of their brain. Is it for communication? Is it for content creation? Is it for work or educational purposes? Now, the high school that my child goes to, my daughter is 16, and they do everything through an iPad. So if I was to try and keep her to the 2-hour limit per day, it's just not going to work. So I'm already setting her up for failure before I've started, because the institution she is educated in uses screens as part of their education program. So have a think. So I think what we need to think about now is, what do you feel is a reasonable amount of time for your children or your family to be on screens, whether it's per day or per week? I would tend to look at your consumption of screen time across a week, because some days they might have activities after school, some days they might be in nursery until 6 o'clock, and actually to come home and watch a little bit of TV to unwind and to decompress from their day is actually really, really a good use of screens in that context. So have a look at it across the week. If your child is active, doing clubs, is involved in bits and bobs that isn't in front of a screen, and then they spend a couple of hours perhaps on a Saturday in front of a screen, is that okay? I can't tell you whether that's okay for your family or not. I'm not part of your world, and I don't know the intricacies of what's going on for you. Someone's just asked the question, does screen time include screens, gaming, watching TV, and using the phone? Yeah. My definition of screen time is anything where you are interacting with a screen, including gaming, phones, laptops, tablets, all of those kind of things. Okay. So only you can decide. We have a lot of families who have neurodivergent children. My daughter got an autistic diagnosis just before the summer last year, and we do use a screen to help with her regulation process. I do get she is a bit older, so it can be handled a bit differently, but that does play a part, and you do have to parent children differently depending on their need and their age as well, and their maturity too. If your child has huge behavioral reactions to gaming, to screens, to TV, to whatever it is, then you are going to have to put bigger limits or boundaries around the screen time than perhaps another child who actually, when you say to them, come off the screen, they go, yeah, okay, and off they go. If you've got one of those children, let me know, because I'm coming to move in with you. So I always remember years ago, now I say my daughter's 16 now, but she must have been, oh my goodness, maybe 7 or 8. And so gaming and things like that weren't quite as big in her universe as perhaps they are now, even 8 years on for children. And her behavior changed immensely. She was watching like American sitcoms and things, but all suitable for children. We sat and watched them with her sometimes. And it was just terrible. Her behavior went bananas. It was awful. And so we didn't ban TV. We banned what she could watch on TV. And so she could watch TV. I do giggle about it now, but she could watch TV as long as she was watching a documentary. Didn't matter what the documentary was, but she could watch a documentary and that would be okay. Now, we did discuss and negotiate horrible histories into being in part of the documentaries. And I do say that she probably passed her GCS history exam simply because she watched horrible histories, nothing to do with the content of the course that she was going into. But anyway, you can look at it slightly differently, and it's not about for example, if you are using screens as consequences, you don't have to ban them forever. It could be like I did with my daughter, is you look at a genre where actually it's educational, she can learn something from it. I'm okay to let her watch that. And I'm actually pleased to report that her behavior did change. She did calm down. And then we were able to talk about letting these shows back into her world and how that would look. Okay. So right, covered all of that. So what I'm going to ask now, and if you are watching on replay, feel free to send me an email, anisalewis.com or hello@anisalewis.com. But for those of you who are listening to me live, pop onto the chat box and tell me, what do you think your children get from screen time? Gaming, phones, TV, anything, laptops, iPads. What do your kids get from it? If you don't want to write in the chat box, save that question up and have a chat to your partner if they're in the room, or a colleague if they're sitting next to you. So we've got, what do your kids get from screen time? So we have got time with friends, comfort, downtime, dopamine hits, unwinding, relaxation, creative inspiration, going on. Oh, that's lovely. Their son is going on and watching, how to make or how to draw videos. It does make me laugh that they spend hours watching other children play on YouTube and actually not doing it themselves. I'm like, what's all that about? But they're obviously getting a happy hormone hit from that. Stimulation from gaming, TV, winding down, communication. So there is lots and lots of reasons why our kids are using screens. So you've got to make the decision whether it's a healthy use of screens or whether it's not something. So the things I had down were dopamine hits, it's easy. And I think that's a key one for our kids, is actually it's really easy to grab their game, to grab their tablet, to grab their phone, rather than having to think, oh, I'm going to go and do an art project, or oh, I'm going to go and build some Lego, or oh, I'm going to do whatever, because actually that requires their brain to have to engage. So actually, are they getting it from it? Just the fact that it's really easy. I also think we need to acknowledge as parents and carers that sometimes we need screens. Well, I know I did. I know my daughter is a bit older now, but when she was little, I needed a screen sometime so that I knew she was plonked down somewhere safe and I could get a few jobs done before we needed to interact again. And I think self-enjoyment, someone said, which is absolutely and completely true. So what I want to encourage you here is, there are lots of talk in the forms that you filled out for me, which was wonderful, thank you, about meltdowns, tantrums, when you are pulling them off, like a bit like withdrawal symptoms. And I would like to encourage you to think about, it's okay for your kids to be bored, and actually it's okay for them to be frustrated that they've been asked to move on. Especially, I say, when they get older, you can start talking to them. I wouldn't say negotiating with them. Oh, maybe I would say negotiating, but the littler ones, it's okay for them to be bored. It's okay for them to have to think creatively. It's okay for them to roll around on the floor and have to think of a creative idea. It's okay for them to feel. And part of us stopping the tantrum or stopping the meltdown or stopping the whatever is actually, are we stopping them from feeling their emotions or coming up with a creative solution to get on with it? So just have a think about the context around the meltdown. If they're being rude, if they're being disrespectful, if they're going back on something you've pre-agreed around screens, then we deal with that differently. But actually, if it is just an emotional reaction to something that's quite important to them being taken away, let them feel the emotion, let them go through it. You may need to offer some alternatives, such as again, when my child was that bit younger, we had a boredom basket. Now, I just simply say, you've had too much time and you have to come off. So she does eye roll and she does look at me and she does get cross, but actually she recognizes there's a balance in what's going on, and sometimes she does need to step away from what is happening. Okay, I think a lot of those meltdowns come from control. Your child feels like they are being controlled over something that is really, really important to them, and they want to stamp their mark on it, whether it is with the older children talking back, whether it is having a tantrum, however your child is showing up, it is about control. And I think and about attention. Some of it is learned behavior. So they know if they have a big enough reaction, you either give in or you take away TV for the rest of their life. There is perhaps nowhere in between for them to go within that. So what can you do to fulfill your child's need for attention in a positive way? Could you actually go and join your child? Learn about their world. I remember fondly Snapchat filters. It's not something that I have on my phone, but the giggles we have from putting ourselves into Snapchat filters, amazing. I know when my husband goes and tries to play, well, he doesn't try, he's actually very good at it, one of the games that she's got going on, and actually they play together. It's such a lovely connection moment. So actually, can you feed that need for connection by joining your child in their world? I'm not tackling today the bullying side of things on social media and all the rest of it. All I would say to you, if you've got a child who is of an age where they are getting a phone, where they are able to communicate, please, 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 I am married to a policeman. I've heard horror stories, absolute horror stories about children who are exposed to apps and things when they are younger than the app age limit is applied. Again, I'm not going down that route today. All I would say is please stand firm in your conviction that there is a reason why, for example, I don't know, Instagram is 13 or 14 years of age, or Snapchat is X years of age. Honor it and don't fall prey to, but so-and-so's got it and so-and-so's got it and so-and-so's got it, because that is peer pressure. You have to do what is right for your child. Okay, so I know I started late, so I'm actually going to keep going for a few more minutes over the 1 o'clock mark. If you have to leave, I completely honor that, but I want to make sure that you get all the stuff that I've been writing down and thinking about presenting to you today. Okay, so control is when your child is in their world. They can control their deeds, their actions, how they choose to have fun, how they interact, all those kind of things. You're then in your bubble of control. And what happens is when we have sparks over screens is one of you is feeling more controlled than the other, and you bang, 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 and your bubbles pop and the explosion happens. So how can we help that? I feel that communication is key. And I mean communication as in listening. Ask your child the question, what do you get out of being on a screen? What do you find hard about transitioning off? Now, obviously, if your child is younger, if your child perhaps has language delay, if your child maybe doesn't understand what it is, the reason why, you are going to have to put boundaries in place to protect them. You are going to have to maybe use some sand timers to give them 5 minutes warnings to come off. Time means nothing to children. So if you are saying to them, you've got 5-10 minutes before you have to be off, and then they react, that's because they went back into that world of dopamine hits, happy places, and they got lost. And then you come back in and say 10 minutes is up, you're 5 minutes up, and they're not ready for it. So something along the lines of a sand timer where they can literally see the passing of time can be quite powerful. And I know, again, I shouldn't promote Amazon, shop where you like for these things, but you can get them in different time quantities, like from 20 seconds all the way up to 20 minutes. So they literally can see it. If you are going to use a timer and your child is a little pickled onion and would get hold of the timer and turn it around the other way, put it up somewhere where they can't see it, or they can't get to it, but they can still see the passing of time coming down. But communication is key. Whether you are creating a contract or some sort of boundary or agreement around screens, you need to hear your child's voice. You need to hear what's going on for them. I remember working with a family years ago where I needed to go in and work with the child on screens, and I needed him to get off. And I said, okay, well, how many more minutes do you need to get to a point on that game where we can have a chat? And he said 3 minutes. I literally timed him for 3 minutes, and within 2 minutes he'd come off. So actually he just needed that little extra space to do what he needed to do for me to then go in. I appreciate coming in, probably his reaction to me was very different to the reaction he would have given to his parents in that situation. But, it's about respect in those situations. And what can we do? Even though we've set the 5-minute timer, if they do need 1 extra minute, how can we accommodate that? I would encourage you very much to listen to understand. Really listen. Don't go in with your own agenda. Go in with an open mind. What I would also say in how we manage screen times is it is consistency. So if you have agreed something, I don't know what that will look like or feel like for your family or for your young person or young people, but if you have agreed something and then the first moment you don't follow through on it, or the next moment they see they can bend the rules on it, then they're going to keep doing that because they know that you're not true to what you've agreed or you're not upholding the consistency. So if there is a problem with gaming and you've said an hour is your limit, then you have to honor that the hour is the limit, and then you have to work out a way to get your child off it, because I say if they push the boundary, they're always going to push the boundary, and that's not going to help you out. What I would also say around boundaries and screens is be prepared to follow through. So get off your game in 5 minutes or get off your phone in 5 minutes, and then you just leave them to it. They are never going to follow up on that boundary. Why would they? They get so much from that experience of being online, chatting to their friends, gaming, building their worlds, and all the rest of it. You then have to be prepared to go in 5 minutes later and say, right, are we now at a point where I can turn it off? Great, awesome, turn it off, take the remote away with you. If your child is one that will then just turn it back on again. If they have an absolute eruption, let them. Obviously, as long as it is safe for your child to do that and they are no harm to themselves or to others. So boundaries and consistency are really, really important. Can you bring your family together in a family meeting and just chat about it? Own it. Use I statements. I feel that in this context or this happening here, we are not having a healthy relationship with screens, or we are not listening to one another, or we are not upholding what we've agreed. How can you bring your family together, whether it's over a meal, whether it's a specific family meeting, that's up to you. Something that, again, some clients have done in the past with me is they have created a phone jail or a tablet jail, because it has to be something that you can fit into like a shoebox. And it became an activity that you created this phone jail, and everybody's phones went into it over a mealtime. And the phone jail, this shoebox, was put on the top shelf so no one could access it. Because actually, you are your child's first role model, and I'm not suggesting that you're having a tantrum every time someone takes a phone off you. And I do get that you have other callings to be on your phone than just social and pleasure. But actually, the rules need to apply to everybody if you're going to follow them through. For example, if you've agreed that no screens or no phones at meal times, then everything could go into the phone jail. You could, if you wish, go cold turkey with screens, but you might get a rebellion. So I'm just going to give you a health warning about going cold turkey on screens. For some families it works, great. If I was to go cold turkey in my family with screens, oh my giddy aunt, there would be a huge rebellion and it wouldn't go down well. So it might be that part of that conversation is, how are we going to move forward? How are we going to look at screens? How are we going to manage this situation? Obviously, there are parent controls that you can put on things where actually you don't even have to have the conversation. The parent control is there and the child has to come and talk to you if they want more time or whatever. You can nowadays get brick phones if that's something, an area you want to go down. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it is an option. If your child is coming to that age where they could get a phone, just take away the temptation altogether and get them one of those old brick phones, which only allows you to communicate with them by text or phone calls. Okay, so let's just have a think. This topic is very thorny, this topic is very wide, this topic is very big, and I'm going to take a lot of what your questions were in the questionnaires and I'm going to write some blog posts on it, and I may even do some more vlogging, which is what someone suggested once and that scared the pants off me, but I'm ready. I'm going to do some vlogging on some of these things because I can't do everything justice to what you wanted to know today from your questions, but I will follow them up, I absolutely promise. So please let me know in the chat box if you've got any takeaways from today, if you've thought about anything that's resonated, if there's something you're going to go back and try with your families, let me know. I know I'm going a couple of minutes over, no problem at all. If you need to leave, please do. You can catch the replay, it will be sent out again. So let me know in the chat box what your takeaways were today. What are you thinking about in terms of screens and what your kids are getting out of it? What you're going to look at across the week, whether you're going to tap into, is it a passive, how they're consuming screens? Is it passive? Is it interactive? Is it creative? Have a think about that. So let's have a look. at what people have taken away. While you're just writing your comments, I will let you know that next month's free clinic is on anxiety, and it's exactly the same time next month. It's on the 11th of March, 12:30 again. If you can't make it live, please book in because you will get the replay sent out to you. Okay, we've got takeaways here. Consistency, oh no, consistency, timers, letting the meltdowns happen. Obviously, please, with the meltdowns, you may need to give it some boundaries, like, okay, let it out for 5 minutes and then we're going to talk. But obviously make sure it's safe for your child to let the meltdown out. Sometimes our kids don't need to be fixed. They just need to be told, you know what, it's really hard when you have to come off a screen, isn't it? I really understand. I was completely involved in that X, Y, and Z, and now I've got to cook dinner. It's really hard for me as well. Okay, to have some more sort of shared agreement as opposed to a power struggle, absolutely, communication is key. Screen utilization rather than screen time was an important message, thank you. Buying an older phone without internet access is a great idea for an autistic son. Yep. Oh gosh, I think if I did that for my autistic daughter again, I'd have a meltdown, but everybody's different. And I didn't start her off on that. So I think it's a different process. The physical timer, children have a timer on their tablet. But yeah, you're right. It is cruel when it shuts off on their tablet in the middle of the game or something they're doing. And as I say, even when the numbers are counting down, it doesn't mean anything. The sand time is where they can physically see the passing of time is fabulous. Let them feel the tantrum and have a boredom basket, joining them in their world. Consistency, phone jails, yeah, great. And you know what? It is a challenge for parents, absolutely. But at the end of the day, our kids don't know whether we're doing the online Tesco shop when we're on our phone or whether we're having a nice chat to Auntie Jane down the road. So actually, you do have to sort of make it quite explicit with your phone use so your children can process it in a slightly different way. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, but thank you all so much for your takeaways. Thank you for your patience over the issues with the sound. Hopefully, if there was an issue, you will get the replay and all will be well. So do join me next month. There are many different ways that you can work with me. So there is an email going out if you want to book a free chat with me to chat through anything else that's happening. I'm also looking for a group of parents to run a beta program with me on something called the Goulding Sleep Talk Method, but you get access to a whole vault of resources that I've created in the background. So you've got lots of support. So if that's maybe something that interested you, then come back to me. But other than that, have a very great day. It is Internet Safety Day. Of all the things that was going to happen on the day that I'm doing this, Internet Safety Day is today. So yeah, go and check your parenting settings, go and make sure your kids are safe online. And I look forward to seeing you next month.